For some women, the burning desire for vengeance is a dangerous emotion.
Revenge is the #1 motivator of murder. It's a very powerful force.
And deadly revenge can be taken anywhere. Even the lobby of a 4-star hotel.
Clara Harris, by all accounts, is a really wonderful human being. For this one brief moment in her life, she lost it. She was a wild animal.
Clara Harris emigrated from Colombia and found the American dream.
Hey, girl. Hello. Looks good.
College education, marriage to a wealthy dentist, a lavish home. But the dream has a fatal flaw. Her husband, David Harris.
What's this?
It's a salad. I made it for you.
Yeah, but I don't like rocket in my salad.
David Harris was a self-indulgent, egotistical clod. Everything about David was have the best of everything, have the best looking woman, have the best car, have the best house on the block, which they did.
Texan author Stephen Long says that while David Harris seems to have it all, he still wants more. He wants his receptionist, Gail Bridges.
Gail Bridges is a little cutie. She's a pretty good-looking woman herself. So it was a situation where David just wanted it all.
For months, David cheats on Clara Harris, barely covering his tracks.
The affair became quite obvious to the employees in David's orthodontics office. And one of them eventually went to Clara and told her.
David's affair will become his death sentence.
Hey, girl.
Where have you been?
I've been out with the guys.
Out with Gail, you mean?
When Clara found out her husband was having an affair, her world ended.
I am your wife! I am your wife!
To lose her husband was to lose everything that was important to her.
Do you love her? Do you love her?
Her standing in the community, how others saw her, everything. And she could not deal with that.
A shattered Clara won't leave her husband. She responds with obsession about her rival for David's love.
She begged him to know about the other woman, demanded that he tell her about the other woman.
According to private investigator Bobby Baca, that request sparks a searing comeback.
And he said, okay, here's the differences. She has a boob job, you don't. She has little feet, you have big feet.
She's got no fat. No fat. She's perfect.
She fits better in bed with me than you do. She's smaller, she's more petite. You're fat, she's not. She basically made him tear her ego down.
For David to tell Clara he was having an affair with another woman was like stabbing her in the heart. But to give her details and compare her to the other woman was like turning the knife. Clara couldn't take it.
With jealous determination, Clara sheds the pounds. But the affair goes on.
Clara was desperate to save her marriage. and she thought, because of things David said, that if she lost weight, if she was prettier, if they made love more often, that would be all it would take. But those are very shallow fixes for a very damaged marriage.
Soon, the damage to her marriage will be complete when Clara takes matters into her own hands.
He tells Clara he's going to break up with Gail, and he takes Gail to bed. He couldn't possibly have been thinking about what Clara would do.
On an upscale Houston street, in a lavish house, a marriage is on the rocks. Clara Harris is becoming desperate.
There's no evidence that Clara has any kind of psychiatric disorder. She had cheating husband disorder. For her, big problem.
Dentist David Harris has been caught having an affair with his receptionist, Gail Bridges. His next lie will turn this once loving wife into a killer.
David told Clara that he was going to meet with Gail and break off the relationship once and for all.
But Clara doesn't trust her husband anymore. She goes to private investigator Bobby Baca.
She said, here's all the case information. He's going to meet her tonight. If you can get close and get recordings of what they're saying. She wanted that.
Bobby puts one of her team on the case. She soon discovers that David Harris has no plans to break up with his lover, Gail.
He went up into a hotel, checked into the hotel. He was with the other woman.
Wait a minute, sexy boy.
And at that point, we just wait for them to come out and video them coming out. And there's no reason why a married man would be alone in a hotel with another woman unless there is adultery.
Oh, I can't believe it. And he lied to me and he's down here. Right, Mom. I'm so sick of it. Mom.
When Clara learns the truth from the PI firm,
I'm so furious.
she snaps.
Just leave it, just leave it.
Enraged, she makes 16-year-old stepdaughter Lindsay phone her father
Harris.
Daddy, you have to come home, Bradley. See.
with a lie to lure the lovers out.
All right. Okay.
Good. Thank you very much.
And that is where our story really becomes incredibly violent, because she saw them come downstairs, get out of an elevator, hand in hand.
That's what you're about, is it?
And Clara Harris lost it. Clara attacked Gail and wrestled her to the ground in the lobby of this hotel.
She snapped. Flying into a rage, not caring who she hurt or how badly.
It's more than just a struggle. Clara's vengeful fury is shocking.
The fact that Clara attacked Gail, and then once she was pulled off, went back and bit her, she's acting like an animal.
Then, the final humiliation.
David Harris told her, it's over, Clara. You've blown it, it's over. And he walked out with the other woman.
But it isn't over. This fight is about to enter its final bloody round.
I don't think there was much going on in Clara's mind at the time of the attack. Just needing to destroy the two people who had destroyed her. If she had a gun, she would have shot them right there. If she'd had a knife, she would have stabbed them. She had her hands, she had her teeth, and then she had her car.
Clara guns the car. In her blind anger, she's racing through the parking lot.
She came around. That's when my PI first saw her.
David is escorting Gail around the hotel to the back. David pushed Gail. He did not get out of the way. Clara hit him.
According to my investigator, when Clara's car struck David, his face hit the dash and his teeth were flying everywhere.
There's more horror to come. As Clara turns the car.
And then began this circuitous route of her coming back around to run over him again and again and again. Every time that car went over David Harris, it was like a meat grinder.
Stop, Mom, please.
From the passenger seat,
We're killing him.
Lindsay Harris is forced to witness her own father's death.
Clara stopped the car and got out and grabbed David, who was at that time barely breathing. And she picked him up and said, "David, look at what you made me do."
Clara Harris is found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to 20 years in prison.
I think Clara killed David because David killed their marriage.
After years of belittlement and an ongoing affair, Clara could not be pushed any further.
The only way to end that kind of pain was to kill the source of the pain. It's lucky that Gail wasn't also killed.
The problem is that Clara Harris loved David too much. She loved him to the point that she was willing to kill to keep anyone from having him. Unfortunately, it was David who she was willing to kill.
Police officer Glenn Turner was too young to die. Just 31, he has suffered a slow, agonizing death.
He called me on the phone. He was just deathly sick. I don't know what's wrong with me. I feel like I'm about to die. You could actually hear the shaking in his voice as he talked.
While Glenn's family and colleagues mourn, one person barely sheds a tear. His wife.
My gut instinct at that very moment, and for those first few days, was that she had done something to him.
Oh, my baby.
Press County 201.
76 low.
Roger that.
There are certain women who are attracted to cops.
Cop County, go to job 791. Roger.
Lynn Turner is one of those women.
Some women have a neurotic attraction to power.
Very good. Even better than I've seen you.
And uniforms, badges, they represent power and authority in our society.
Working in police radio dispatch, the glamorous 22-year-old is surrounded by the men she craves. But Lynn Turner's smile hides a darker side.
She has an aggressive personality, a manipulative personality, a controlling personality.
In Cobb County, Georgia, police officer Mike Archer knew her as a woman to keep well away from.
She didn't have a real good reputation, and she was just kind of sneaky.
Lynn was dangerous to any man who had a wallet and a badge.
After hours, Lynn stalks the officer's favorite bars in Marietta, Georgia. It's here she meets Officer Glenn Turner.
Glenn didn't have any enemies. Glenn just got along with everybody, and he was very gullible. Just a very easygoing, likable, big teddy bear guy.
Singled out by the sexy brunette, Glenn falls quickly under her spell.
Fairly attractive lady. And for Glenn, it was, Glenn wasn't the best looking guy. He wasn't in the best physical shape. He wasn't chiseled or anything, but, and for Glenn, Lynn was a catch.
Just 2 months later, Glenn announces his engagement.
I was just shocked. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Simply because her background didn't fit Glenn's personality.
I missed you. I met just Jet.
Oh, thank you.
Hey, let me pop. Yeah.
It seems like a happy marriage. But Glenn soon finds his classy wife is a big spender.
Sweetheart. So, tell me about your day.
Lynn would use sex and gifts to get a man interested in her. But once she married Glenn, the sex stopped. She wasn't really in love with him. She was in love with what his money could do for her.
2 years on, Glenn Turner has had enough. He wants a divorce. But Lynn wants his money. And she'll get more if her husband is dead. Then, Glenn is struck by a mystery illness.
I mean, he just called me on the phone, said, I'm just so sick. I've had extreme diarrhea. I mean, I'm throwing up. I've been throwing up for 2 days. I can't stop. I don't know what's wrong with me. I feel like I'm about to die.
Days later, the healthy police sergeant is dead.
Sergeant Judith Fannin, who had called me and told me that they'd found Glenn dead in bed.
Mr. Detective, I came up here to see if he wanted a glass of water, and he was dead.
Instinctively, Glenn's police buddies are suspicious.
I took him to the hospital earlier, and they sent him home. They said he'd be okay.
You sure about that?
Yeah.
We had the discussion about the possibility that Lynn had done something to Glenn. And everybody was in agreement that we thought something had happened.
But the autopsy says a virus simply caused Glenn's big heart to stop.
Get me out of here.
I accepted it. I said, okay, he got sick, and he pretty much, that's what got him.
After the funeral, Lynn collects Glenn's insurance payout and quickly leaves town, straight into the arms of a new police officer, Randy Thompson. Six years later, Mike Archer gets a chilling phone call.
And I said, what is it? He goes, no, you really need to sit down. I sat down, and he said, they found Randy, and Randy was about 32 years of age. He said, they found Randy dead in his bed yesterday morning.
His mind races to one conclusion.
I mean, then I knew she had done something. I knew they were going to be connected. I mean, I was just skin, you know, my hair was all up on the back of my neck. I mean, it was just my heart was pounding. I said, you know, something's up, something's up.
Lynn Turner loves a man in uniform.
There were two things in life very important to Lynn. One was that her husband be a cop. The other was that she be able to spend a lot of money.
The problem is, Lynn's men in uniform keep dying.
Lynn was a black widow in every sense of the word. She mated, she killed, and moved on to the next person.
When 32-year-old Randy Thompson falls ill, it seems like a severe flu.
He was treated for the symptoms, diagnosed with gastritis, and then released with medication.
Come on, keep it.
People talked to him the next day. He seemed to be getting better. So it was a surprise then when he was discovered dead.
On its own, Randy's death doesn't seem strange. But Lynn Turner has lost a man before.
Oh, get away from him! Oh, my baby!
Glenn Turner's sudden death left his fellow officers suspicious. When they hear about Randy Thompson, they hit the phones.
I knew right then that Lynn had, you know, murdered both of them. And there was no doubt in my mind, Lynn married both of them, and both of them was for money.
Get me out of here.
For money and for greed.
You had young men about the same age. They were both healthy. They should not have died just having the flu. What these two men had in common at the times that they died were this woman.
A red flag is up. The medical examiner is looking for something suspicious.
During the autopsy of Randy, the medical examiner discovered crystals in the kidneys, which was an indication of poisoning.
Six years after his death, Glenn Turner's body is exhumed. He, too, has an awful secret.
Ultimately, they both died of ethylene glycol poisoning.
Ethylene glycol is a liquid found in the garages of millions of Americans. Most people know it as antifreeze. To Lynn Turner, it's a murder weapon, hidden in a bowl of Jell-O.
Ethylene glycol is a slightly sweet, odorless substance. It can be disguised rather easily in Jell-O or tea or a soft drink. But once it's ingested within a matter of several hours, the individual begins to get extremely sick. They will experience headache, confusion, abdominal pain. They will be disoriented. And frequently, they will start to experience abnormal bleeding in their body as well.
You know, at any time, certainly while she watched these men suffer, she could have decided that she didn't want to do this, that it was not the right thing to do. She actually had the opportunity to stop it.
Lynn killed with antifreeze because it was easy. She didn't have to get dirty or bloody or stab him or anything like that. And she could secretly put it in something he was eating or drinking and quietly kill him. She thought she could get away with it.
Found guilty of 2 counts of murder. She was sentenced to life without parole.
When they said guilty, 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 I mean, it was just, it's like a load had been lifted off of you. I mean, it was just like, you know, thank God. Especially for Glenn's family.
I think she's broken and can't be fixed. There's just some inner core to her that she doesn't have, that bit of humanity that the rest of us do.
Lynn Turner died in prison in August 2010.